Welcome again to another video tutorial from your friends at nerdzalert. Today I wanted to talk about Ninite.com. Well, what is Ninite.com? Ninite.com is a repository or a self-installer creator for many of the most commonly used open source pieces of software. For the most part, in general in the industry, there are some consensus on what you generally need for a base build or for troubleshooting for your computer, and most all of these are supported by Ninite.com. What Ninite.com does is it allows you to individually pick the softwares you want to install and then download an installer that will attach to the individual websites, for example Google Chrome, and download the most recent version of Google Chrome, install it for you with only one click. You download the installer, you run the installer, you give it permission to install the software, and it installs everything straight through for you without having to go through any of the additional steps of deciding where and what parts to install. Now, as a bonus or benefit to that, a couple of other things it does is it will remove some of your bloatware or advertisingware. So say, for example, Glare Utilities, a very handy one-click utility that you can utilize in optimizing your computer, or used to when you installed it. It has a free version. It also has a paid version, which I very strongly suggest if you're going to use on a regular basis. It's well worth the money. But setting that aside, used to, when it installed it, it would install Ask Toolbar. Then you had to go back in underneath and get rid of the Ask Toolbar after you were done with the install of the Glare Utilities. So what the Ninite.com installer does is not only does it reach out to the individual servers for the software and install the latest version of the software, but it also gets rid of all of those automated processes that you would have to do yourself. So it does all the work for you. So I'm a real big fan of the Ninite website, and since it downloads the newest versions, a lot of times what you can do is just download one custom installer that you use on a regular basis and just use it repeatedly because it will reach out and install. So real quickly to run through some of these so that I don't get this video too long, you have your major web browsers that are open source, obviously. Developer tools for those of you who do any type of FTP work, any kind of scripting or programming, developing. You have your standard messaging apps, Google Talk, Trillion, Yahoo, Skype, those types of things. Any kind of medias, like for example, VLC player is a really good one. iTunes is common. VLC covers a lot of codecs, so that generally speaking, if you run into a movie you can't play with Windows Media Player or iTunes, VLC will play it. Audacity is a good sound recorder. Runtimes, you've got your Java, your Net Framework, Silverlight, Air, Shockwave. Those are pretty much standard these days. You have to have them to go to most websites and have them to function. GIMP is a very good open source graphics editing program, similar in nature to Adobe Photoshop, but it is an open source. Inkscape is a vector-based graphics editing program. XNView, Picasso, those are all image viewers, really good stuff there. Documents, you have your Office version, which you would have to do a paid version if you were going to get heavy into it. OpenOffice, comparable to Microsoft Office in the open source world. And of course, Adobe Reader, Sumatra, PDF Reader, Foxit Reader for versions of Adobe Reader. Security, you have security softwares. The Microsoft Essentials is built into Microsoft itself and updates. Avast, AVG, those three are live run actual antiviruses that have a free version for home use only. Again, if you decide that you enjoy the software or are pleased with the antivirus, then Avast and AVG to also have a pro paid version. Malwarebytes, Adware, Spybot virus, those are all one-time scanners to check and see if anything's wrong. Online storage, everybody knows about Dropbox and Googlebox and SkyDrive to be able to store. 7-Zip is an excellent open source zip utility that handles RAR files as well as zip files and several other formats. By the way, this is one of those installers, as an example, like Glare Utilities. It downloads and installs the software and sets it as the default. for those types of, for all of its known file association formats. So say for example, normally where you would install 7-zip and then have to launch it and manually tell it, I want this software to handle RAR, or want this software to handle zip, which is a little complicated for some of your average users. This will handle it for you. Under utilities, we have TeamViewer, Image Burn, IMG Burn. By the way, this is an extremely good optimization and defrag utility. Your standard built-in defrag for Windows will just do a defrag. OzLogix actually does a defrag and optimize. It takes a little longer, but it does a great job of potentially speeding up your PC. Then, of course, you have your real VNC solution for remoting in. TerraCopy, which is a great utility to replace your copy handling utility in the Windows native. So when you drag and drop files from one to another, you'll see a different window come up that shows you errors, files that failed, those types of things. So it's a little more robust than your standard copy utility from Windows. CD Burner XP is exactly what it looks like. It burns CDs. Then you have, excuse me, glare utilities that we just discussed a few minutes ago, uh, and Classic Start. This one, for those of you who are using Windows 8 and are disturbed by the lack of a Classic Start menu, this actually is a open source alternative to replace and to give you that ability. And it has a level of control to where you can pretty much stay on the classic desktop almost all the time without having to go over to the new Windows 7 or Metro design desktop. It's a really good alternative if you're wanting your old classic orb back. At any rate, if you get a minute, check out nanite.com. I very strongly suggest their website, and I also suggest to donate to them if you can. Give them some credit, give them a little bit of money to help them keep going. And as you'll notice, they also have similar Linux functionality to be able to download an installer for Linux, which is in beta format, obviously. But at any rate, it's a great website. It's a great way to quickly install software, particularly if you have either a new machine, a new image, or you're having to re-image. It's a really great way to get one installer and just click it one time, run and done, and then walk away. So thanks for stopping by. I appreciate everybody, and hopefully this information will help somebody out there. You have a good evening.